Hello and welcome back to the channel. In this video I'll be sharing with you a requested video of how to cut a deep neckline stylish corset. So if this is something you like, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button. Let's dive right into today's video. So here is my pattern, and I've gone ahead to mark out my basic measurement, which includes my shoulder to bust, shoulder to under bust, shoulder to waistline, and 5 inches to get my top length. So after I'm done doing this, I'll just go ahead and mark my shoulder divided by 2. My shoulder is 14 divided by 2. I have 7. Come down by 1 inch to mark my shoulder slope, and after that I'll just go ahead to connect this all the way to the shoulder line. So the next step you want to take is to find your armhole or your chest line, which is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches, and I'll go ahead to connect. So from that point I'm going to draw a straight line which will be serving as the chest line or armhole line. Now I'm going to divide my armhole into 2 this way and mark, and I'll come in by ½ inch. And after that, at the chest line I'm going to go ahead to mark my bust circumference divided by 4, and I'll place my curved rule touching that bust circumference divided by 4 to the armhole, and I'll go up to the shoulder line. So this is what I have after I'm done marking this. And the next step you want to take is to go ahead to mark your nipple to nipple divided by 2. So my nipple to nipple is 7 inches divided by 2. I have 3.5 inches, and I'm going to go ahead to mark this all the way to my top length. After I'm done marking this, I'm going to place connect and draw a straight line. So next I'm going to go ahead to draw my dart intake, which will be around 1 inch at my waist side and also at my under bust. Go ahead to do the same at the under bust. So after this I went ahead to connect my pattern, and I also connected the bust line. So when I was doing this, I didn't know that my camera wasn't recording. So all you have to do is to connect those lines that you marked, and you're going to place your French curve and you're going to connect it this way at from your bust down to your under bust. So after that I went up by 1.5 inches. So you can decide where you want your cup to start, or you can just use your bust radius and mark that. After that I'll go ahead and rule a line at that point, and I'll mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2, and I'm going to place my ruler and I'm going to go ahead to connect. Next I'll be marking my dart intake on this side. I'll go ahead to mark 1 inch and mark 1 inch on the other side. So after that I'll place my curved rule and connect to the upper part of my pattern, and also repeat that for the other side of this pattern. So the next step is just to go ahead and use your marker to outline this so that it's going to be very visible. So I'll go ahead to insert my body measurement before I'll alter the neckline of my pattern. So I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4, which is 33 divided by 4. I have 8.3. Measure this, replace and add my sewing allowance. At the under bust, I'll mark my under bust circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake mark and add my sewing allowance. At the waistline, so for the waistline, I want to take out 4 inches from my original waistline, and my waistline is 28 minus 4. I have 24 divided by 4. I have 6 inches. So I marked that, measured the dart intake, replaced and add my sewing allowance. So going to the top length, I'm going to go ahead to mark my hip circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace and add my sewing allowance. So for this pattern, it's best to use ½ inch for your sewing allowance because you don't need much shaping on this pattern. Just ½ inch is okay. So now I'm just going to go ahead to connect this all the way down to the lower part, and I will use my marker to outline this. Since I've already snatched out my waist, I will add a style line to this. Another way to do this is just to snatch out your waist, that is dividing your waist and adding multiple darts to it, but this will be easier for a beginner. So after this, I'm just going to go down by 2.5 inches from my under bust, and I'll place come in by 1 inch. So I'll just go ahead to place my ruler, connect it to the lower point. So after I'm done doing that, I'll be going up by 1.2 inches. You can use 1.5. It totally depends on the person's bust and what you want to create at that point. So now at that chest line point, I'm going to go up a bit, like you're drawing out your cup. This will also serve as a guide. So after drawing that out, it's just a fence mark. I'm just going to place my ruler and I'm going to connect it all the way to that my 1.2 inches. So after this, I'll just go ahead to connect it all the way down. Now after I'm done connecting, I'll outline the other part of my corset. Now the next step is you want to connect from this point down to that lower part of your cup, and I'll go ahead to outline this. So this is what I have on this part of my cup. Moving on to the other side, you're going to divide what you have from your armhole to your bust circumference divided by 2 this way and mark. So from that point, you're going to place your French curve and you're going to connect it all the way down and also connect your cup this way. So after you're done doing this and you're sure that this is what you want, go ahead to outline it, and you can go down by 1/2 inch from your chest line. And from my bust point, I'll be going down by 1/2 inch on both sides, and I'll be connecting my cup to create the 3-part corset effect on my cup this way. And I'll just go ahead to use my marker to outline it. Now I'll mark this as A1, A2, B, and C. So I'm just labeling my pattern so that I don't get confused. And you can go ahead to create another style line at the waist of your pattern. Now we'll be working on the lower part of this corset. So now from this part, I'll just go ahead to blend in the dart areas, and I'll go up by 2 inches. So for the lower part, I didn't follow exactly what we have at that point, but I just created a little curve just to show how we got there, but you can just add more curves to yours. So at this point, I went up by 2 inches and I went ahead to connect back. So I'll just go ahead to use my marker to outline this, and I'll be cutting out the rest of the pattern. So at this point, if you haven't yet subscribed, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and also leave your comment or question at the comment section. So after I was done cutting, this is what I have, and next we'll be moving over to the back pattern. So for the back pattern, this is what I have. I've gone ahead to mark out all the basic measurements just like we did for the front, and also for my top length I marked the same. So I'll go ahead to place my ruler and I'll be drawing out a straight line down to the top length. So after I'm done marking that, I'll go ahead and mark 1/2 inch on both sides of my pattern this way, and I'm going to come down by 1 inch from my bust point, go ahead to connect it all the way up, and I will also connect it to the other part. So now I'll be coming down by 4 inches and I'll go ahead to connect down to the lower part of my pattern. So this is what I have. And next, you want to insert your body measurement. Mark your bust circumference divided by 4 and add your sewing allowance. Go ahead to mark your waist circumference just like we snatched our waist with 6 inches. Mark that, measure the dart intake, replace, and add your 1/2 inch sewing allowance. At the top length, mark your hip circumference divided by 4, mark your sewing allowance of 1/2 inch, and then you're going to go ahead to connect all the way starting from the upper part of your pattern to the waistline. So if you notice, we didn't use an under bust for here, which is also okay for the back pattern. So now I'll just go ahead to create another style line on this pattern, just because we have snatched our pattern or our waist already. So you just go ahead to insert a style line. So So the next step is just to go ahead and mark my lacing bar area. I'll be using 1.5 inches. So this 1.5 inches is not a standard. It just depends on what you want for the back pattern of your dress. You can use 2 inches, 2.5 or more. And after this, I'll go ahead to connect. After I'm done connecting, I'll just go ahead to make a dot to indicate that that is the lacing bar area. So after I'm done doing that, I'll come down by 1/2 inch and I'll go ahead to connect this all the way up this way, and I'll be connecting this all the way to the other parts of my so I'll go ahead and go up by 1 inch and I'll go ahead to connect it all the way down. But for the front pattern we use 2 inches, but I'll go ahead and still reconnect this pattern. So after I'm done cutting out my pattern, I'll go ahead to mark another 1 inch, making it 2 inches, and I'll go ahead to reconnect. So with that, we have come to the end of today's tutorial. Please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and join us in our next video.